Audio Jungle.
This package, Akwa Ibom government to reappraise operations of private humanitarian homes to curb illegal adoptions. University of Uyo Vice Chancellor enjoins staff and students to draw closer to God. Professor of Mass Communication Etum Kabumo Anam goes home at 70 as Deputy Governor pays tribute. Plus, 2016 budget controversy, President Buhari formally seeks to withdraw appropriation bill. This and more in a moment. Good morning to you and welcome to AKBC 45 News at Dawn. I am Blessing Isonyo. About 82 persons were prosecuted in 2015 for various child rights offences by the Ministry of Women Affairs. The Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Welfare, Dr. Gloria Edet, who disclosed this while fielding questions on an AKBC TV current affairs program unveiling the mandate, said government is intensifying effort at stopping child abuse using the necessary legal instruments. The report.
Dr. Gloria Edet said that 14 persons have so far been prosecuted for operating baby factories in the state. Dr. Edet said the Ministry of Women Affairs is currently on inspection tour of private humanitarian homes to reappraise their operations. She explains that private humanitarian homes are not permitted to give out children in their care for adoption, as the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare is the only legally authorized body to contract adoption in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice and the Judiciary.
You have no right, even if it is a private home, you have registered to give out any child for adoption. It is only the ministry that can give out the child for adoption. Even if you have a child in your private home for adoption, you have to come to the ministry and the ministry will do investigation and find out. It is the ministry who will now hand over the child officially for preliminary adoption and recommend you to the court. And that is why we are planning to move around the state and make sure private homes that do not meet with the criteria, we close them down.
The Commissioner acknowledged incidents of rape in the state and encouraged victims to report such incidents to the ministry, assuring that their welfare will be taken care of.
Yeah, of course, when we've done a lot. Even when we were moving from federal constituency to federal constituency, we mentioned it because you have to speak out. If you don't report to us as a ministry, we won't know. And that is why some of the persons that are abusing children, that we take them to court, it is because those people have come to report to us, and we encourage everybody, whether small or big, if there is anything like that, you come to the ministry. We are ready to make sure any offender is being prosecuted. So our doors are open. Anytime you come to the ministry, feel free to come and report. Of course, we cannot know until you come and tell us.
Dr. Gloria Edet said registration of women interested in petty trading as a starting point is being compiled at the ward level. She again encouraged women to raise their financial independence by registering with wives of village heads or the woman leader in their wards, as the office of the wife of the governor, in collaboration with the ministry, is poised to raise the living standards of women in the state.
I now problem of the women, and that is why His Excellency the Governor has done a lot in making sure that these women are empowered, because some of the problems were lack of finances to start up businesses so that they can stay on their own. The government is trying to give loans to the women so that they can start up their businesses.
The Director General of the Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation, Pastor Annette Ukpe, has charged journalists to be objective in their reportage. He stated this when the Consolidated Chapel of the Nigerian Union of Journalists called on him at the corporate headquarters of the AKBC. Ebuka Okafor completes the story.
Addressing his guests, the Director General, Pastor Annette Ukpe, emphasized that AKBC is progress-minded. Pastor Ukpe advised that journalists should always be objective and desist from deceiving the public in their reportage, while urging the people to be supportive to the administration of Governor Udom Emmanuel. He assured the Consolidated Chapel of the corporation's support.
And unfortunately, a lot of people do not know what we are. Very kind to us, and we cannot miscarry the blessing that God has given to us. I believe that God will still be with us, and this day will keep getting better and better. And we who belong, who own this thing, this is the time for us to accept ourselves in this thing, because sooner than later you'll have a lot of strangers who would want to come and own this thing.
The chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Consolidated Chapel, Mr. Amos Etu, noted that the improvements in the station's programs are enormous and congratulated AKBC for bagging the award of the best media at the 2015 NUJ Press Week. Mr. Etu noted that irrespective of challenges faced by journalists in the course of their duties, they have remained steadfast in bringing quality representation for the government. Mr. Etuk spoke of plans to help members of the chapel to sharpen their professional skills through seminars and workshops, while not losing sight of physical fitness. He also invited Pastor Ukpe to the Consolidated Chapel's Thanksgiving, billed for Sunday 24th January 2016 at the Holy Ghost Ambassadors Church, Ebanya Street, Uyo, at 10 o'clock in the morning.
As the new leadership, we have outlined programs we believe will set the tone of the success story we intend to achieve in the year 2016, and also give a lot of developmental strides towards our profession and also developing the society.
Ebuka Okafor reporting.
Next week's 5 days campaign against measles is expected to protect about 1 million children in Akwa Ibom State from the dreaded childhood killer disease. This figure was released during a media parley at the Ministry of Health, where journalists were asked to help inform members of the public on the importance of the measles vaccination. Uduaikon reports that the measles vaccination will be administered by trained health workers at the 1,640 vaccination posts established throughout the state. Her reports.
Unveiling the 5-day measles campaign, which will hold simultaneously in all the states in the southwest, southeast and south-south Nigeria, the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Dominic Ukpong, said the best way to prevent measles, one of the leading causes of death among young children, is to present the children for an appropriate dose of the measles vaccine. Represented by the Director of Public Health Services in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Godwin Ebuk, the Commissioner said different control measures, including routine immunizations, campaigns, surveillance and clinical management, had been deployed by the Ministry to gradually reduce the number of young lives lost to measles and other childhood killer diseases.
Surveillance will tell you whether you should bring up a catch-up campaign like this one. Normally, a child who gets measles should have or should be compared with everlasting immunity, lifelong immunity. Sometimes people complain because where a child has been given measles, certain things may be wrong. But if the vaccine is potent, if the child now gets fever, it will be mild. It will not kill that child.
The Social Mobilization Officer in the State Ministry of Health, Mrs. Evelyn Eyo, presented an overview of the measles situation in Nigeria and advised parents and caregivers to present their children for the vaccination at the 1,640 vaccination posts provided in the 328 wards of the 31 local government areas of Akwa Ibom. She also advocated improved personal hygienic practices like hand washing, proper feeding and proper accommodation for children to tackle cases of poor feeding and overcrowding that have been responsible for reduced immunity that makes young children susceptible to diseases.
Look at the correlation. Measles vaccination results in what? 75% drop in measles death. Hence, we are encouraging mothers to come out for immunization that is free. It is safe. It's available.
Others who emphasized the importance of the measles campaign were the measles consultant for the World Health Organization, Mrs. Gift Etentuk, the State Immunization Officer, Dr. Imodo, and the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Health, Dr. Charles Mbong.
That is places premium on primary and community health care. In fact, it's always some preventive medicine. Because common sense will always tell us that it's good to prevent an issue than looking for a cure.
Measles, a highly contagious disease, is characterized by fever, rash, runny nose, red and watery eyes, leading to serious complications including blindness, swelling of the brain, diarrhea, ear infections, and severe respiratory infections such as pneumonia. Udwakeko reporting.
The Akwa Ibom state government is in the process of ensuring that sanitary inspectors are recruited to take care of hazardous sanitary conditions. The Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Health, Dr. Charles Mbong, stated this while chatting with newsmen at the Ministry of Health, Uyo. Dr. Mbong described Akwa Ibom people as hygiene conscious and advised that with the Lassa fever reported in Rivers State, there is need for the people to accord priority to keeping the environment clean.
Very clean and very tidy, and therefore let us insist that we maintain that culture of cleanliness. Very soon, as they do the state environmental sanitation exercises, we are involving a process where we're going to be having hopefully sanitary inspectors, the household, and I said, they are equally very clean.
We're going to short break and come back with more news for you. Stay with us.
There is a land of great beauty and wonderful people. Here, Mary Slessor called home until she passed on to greater glory. Here, Lord Lugard lived and administered Nigeria. The hills roll like the waves, and the waves rise like the hills. A land named after God, Akwa Ibom State, the land of promise. Welcome to Akwa Ibom, the land of promise.
Glad to have you back. The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Uyo, Professor Enifio Esen, has enjoined staff and students of the institution to always offer thanks and draw closer to God in their everyday affairs. Professor Esen gave the charge during a New Year interdenominational Thanksgiving service which took place at the Unyoma Ogochukwu Hall, town campus of the university. Cecilia Ofem filed the following report presented in our studios.
Professor Esen described Thanksgiving as a way of expressing appreciation to God for His benevolence and grace. The Vice-Chancellor expressed happiness over the peace prevailing at the campus and attributed it to God. He commended the management of the various schools and staff for their support while encouraging them to work hard to foster unity in the university.
And so there's needs and every reason to thank God, because the way things are in the university, in the state and in Nigeria at large means that we must continually draw near to God. We must continually thank God, because with Him we can do everything. And when He says yes, nobody can say no.
In a sermon, the senior pastor inside Bible Church, Dr. Silvanus Okafia, who spoke on the topic Fulfilled Purpose, urged the management of the university to seek Christ in its daily dealings in order to succeed. Dr. Okafia said the fulfilling purpose is to achieve what was expected of the university and urged the management to work hard in order to record successes in the 2016 academic year.
What season is this in this university? There is time for everything. Once you determine what is to go on now, it will influence your commitment. You will either be excited or happy, or sad, and you want to tear it down. But I came to let you know that this university is bigger than any one of us.
The registrar of the university, Mrs. Eda Omondak, expressed thanks to God for seeing the university through 17 academic years. Mrs. Omondak said that the university has embraced a new beginning and described current management team as another phase of impactful governance that will further add value to the continued transformation of the university.
And therefore we are here to express our appreciation in song, in praises, in worship, acknowledging His Lordship, to thank Him for His love, to thank Him for His benevolence, His grace, His mercy, His favor. I doubt if we could finish counting our blessings.
The event featured intercessory prayers for the school, management and staff, song ministration from different choirs, as well as Thanksgiving dance.
The Ikot-Ekpene Archdiocese of the Methodist Church, Nigeria, will on Sunday, 24th January 2016, finally present Sir Emem Akpabio as the third lay president of the Archdiocese. The ceremony, bell for 10 in the morning, will hold at the group's Memorial Methodist Cathedral, Ikot-Ekpene headquarters of the Archdiocese, and will feature an appreciation service in honor of the immediate past Archdiocesan lay president, Sir Adasu Bulum. A release jointly signed by the Archbishop of Ikot-Ekpene Archdiocese, His Grace Most Reverend Sanduko, Council Secretary Very Reverend Nsa Banan Chairman, Planning Committee Elder Sunyan Kekere Inokon, indicate that Governor Odom is expected to grace the event as a special guest of honor, while the Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ekbo, will attend as guest of honor. Other dignitaries expected to grace the occasion include Senate Minority Leader Senator Godswill Akpabio, Speaker, Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, Barrister Onofio Luke, Deputy Speaker, Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, Princess Felicia Bassi, and members of Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, members of the State Executive Council, Head of Civil Service, Mrs. Ekarabon Akpan, as well as eminent political and religious leaders. The release invites the church faithful and Christians from all walks of life to be part of the religious gathering. Meanwhile, a 3-day South-South Regional Convention of the Methodist Church Nigeria begins next week, Wednesday, 27th January 2016 at the Kodikmene Stadium. The convention will last till Sunday, 31st January 2016. A statement from the planning committee indicates that the prelate of the Methodist Church Nigeria, His Eminence Dr. Samuel Chukwuemeka Uche, will lead other clerics to officiate at the event. The statement invites the Methodist faithful and people desiring divine touch in 2016 to avail themselves of the opportunity and be part of God's arrangements for the new year. The State Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ekpo, was among sympathizers who joined the Adam family of Ubororo in Urofon local government area to pay their last respects to their son, brother, father and grandfather, the late Professor Etam Anam, who died at 70. The funeral of the late Professor Etam Anam, which was conducted by the Independent Baptist Church Calabar, took place at the Oron Sports Stadium. Oduarekong has the details.
It was a gathering of journalists and the academia, the two worlds that the late Professor Etam James Anam featured prominently in for more than 40 out of his 70 years on earth as reporter, broadcaster, editor, publisher, teacher, and professor of mass communication. The biography of the deceased indicates that the late Professor Anam had served at various times as senior news editor, Cross River Radio Calabar, editor, Sunday Chronicles Calabar, editor-in-chief, the Nigerian Chronicle, executive editor and chief executive officer of the Pioneer newspaper, deputy general editor and later guest columnist of Newswatch magazine, as well as editor-in-chief and later executive director, Sunray Publications Limited. The late Professor Etam Anam's academic career as a university lecturer began in 1998 in the Department of Communication Arts, University of Uyo. Later, the Cross River University of Technology, Calabar, CRUTEC, University of Calabar, and in April 2015, he was appointed Professor of Mass Communication at Bingham University, Nasarawa State. The deceased was also a member of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, and the African Council for Communication Education, ACCE, with more than 100 publications to his credit. To those who turned up for Professor Etam Anam's funeral, the message was simple: repent and avoid condemnation to hell as punishment for sin.
So there is punishment for sin. And what is that punishment? Physical death and then condemnation to hell. For the wages of sin is death. God says, I will pay you for your work. The wages of sin is death. Wages means pay, means salary. So God pays us for working. What's our work? Sin. So God pays us for our sin with death.
Expressing his condolences to the wife and children of the late Professor Etam Anam, the Akwa Ibom State Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ekpo, described the deceased as a consummate and exemplary journalist whose death is a monumental loss to the journalism profession. He said Professor Anam's brilliance came to the fore when, during his time at the Nigerian Chronicle, circulation of the paper increased to 5,000 copies sold every weekend because of his opinion page, This Life.
Etam was a consummate journalist, and I feel proud that I have been part and parcel of the profession which he belonged to. His contributions to the development of the profession cannot be quantified now. We will leave that for history.
The remains of the late Professor Etam James Anam, who is survived by his wife Linda, his daughter and 2 sons, were later conveyed to his hometown, Ubororo, in Urefon, Ruko, for interment a day after his January 15th birthday, when he would have been 71 years old. Udwakekon reporting.
May the soul of Professor Anam rest in perfect peace. As world leaders converge on the United Arab Emirates for the World Future Energy Summit, President Muhammadu Buhari has reaffirmed Nigeria's readiness to work with the rest of the world in a collective effort to mitigate the effects of climate change. Monsieur Kare tells us about this and more in our national and foreign news segments.
World leaders, including President Muhammadu Buhari, are attending the World Future Energy Summit in the United Arab Emirates. The World Future Energy Summit is an annual global event committed to advancing future energy and clean technology. This year, the summit is dedicated to showcasing the latest innovations, advancing the take-up of photovoltaic concentrated solar power and other cutting-edge solar technologies, and helping governments to meet ambitious targets for renewable energy. At the summit, President Buhari reaffirmed Nigeria's readiness to work with the world in a collective effort to mitigate the effects of climate change. At the sidelines of the summit, President Buhari and his team held bilateral talks with the UAE government, after which agreements between both countries on economic, trade and bilateral relations were signed. The Nigerian delegation also held talks with key businessmen from the UAE. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Nigerian Customs Service to transfer contraband items such as rice, vegetable oil, used clothing materials, and other essentials in various custom warehouses to designated officials for onward distribution to internally displaced persons camps, as well as some communities and villages that have been hit by Boko Haram terrorists. The Nigeria Customs Service has said the relief items to be distributed are those that have been forfeited to the federal government in courts of law. The National Committee that will coordinate and manage the transfer of relief items are made up of officers drawn from the Nigerian Customs Service, Army, Air Force, Police, Immigration Service, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki says the 2016 legislative year will have 30 bills of interest that will address governance, economic reforms, as well as to fast-track necessary changes, and that when passed, such bills will give backing to necessary reforms in areas of security, judiciary, anti-corruption, taxation, and poverty eradication. Dr. Saraki encouraged Nigerians to follow the debates on the bills closely and send in their recommendations. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has forwarded an official letter addressed to the National Assembly to withdraw the 2016 appropriation bill that was presented to a joint session of the National Assembly on December 22, 2015 by the President.
A quick reminder that you can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org, or you can follow us on Twitter at AKBC45U, on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. That's our package for this morning. And before we go, another look at the top stories. About 82 persons were prosecuted in 2015 for various child rights offenses by the Ministry of Women Affairs. The Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Welfare, Dr. Gloria Det, who disclosed this while fielding questions on an AKBC TV current affairs program unveiling the mandate, said government is intensifying efforts at stopping child abuse using the necessary legal instruments. He also brought you a report that the remains of a professor of mass communication, Etam Kapumanam, who died at 70, have been buried in his hometown, Ubororo, in Urofo. was the news. Thank you for watching. Do have a blessed day. Good morning.